everyone, and welcome back to episode 4. We are now Fresh Ink by Ultimate Autographs. My name, Donnie Rollins, Adam Johnson to my left, Griffin Sassano to my right. And today we have a couple fan questions that we're going to get into. And for the 4th straight episode, I'm wearing the same clothes again. Blue sweats, Patagonia vest, and it's all about consistency at this point.
This dude is a model of consistency.
If you think I'm going to change for episode 5, you're wrong. Right off the bat. Just going to let you know it will be consistent.
I respect that.
I will put money on you having the same.
you will win that.
Do we get a line on that, Vegas?
So we have a couple fan questions that we want to get started with here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft.
Yep.
Whose value's up, whose value's down. We'll get into all that, and then we'll play 20 questions like we always do. Today's my guy.
Love it.
I got him ready to go, and I don't want to say it's going to be a stump because you might get it, but
you will never stump me.
It may be difficult.
His Jimmer Fredette.
I'm so mad about that.
Ugh.
That was a little bit of my favorite athlete of all time. All right, so first thing, a couple fan questions. Actually, we get some feedback here on the Fresh Ink podcast. Griffin, what do you got?
Yes, Mike from South Carolina wants to know why we don't have Andrew Luck signing at our upcoming Colts autograph show Memorial Day weekend.
Right. Well, I think we got a full lineup of Colts players, 6 guys. You can find that on our website. Andrew Luck was definitely someone we would have loved to have there, but some guys have things what they call exclusive deals. Unfortunately, those athletes can't always come and sign with us because they're obligated to the deal they signed previously. And Andrew Luck is a Panini guy, so it's tougher to get those guys once they have the obligation with a company like Panini. So we kind of have to go outside those parameters and find guys who are free to sign with whoever they want. So that's why you won't be seeing Andrew Luck there. But like I said, we would love to have him. But exclusive deals can kind of throw a wrench and stuff. But it's great for the athletes. It's a good thing to do.
Right. Like you mentioned, the Colts show we signed. Darius Leonard will be there, defensive rookie of the year, guy's a stud. New face, Devin Funchess, Marlon Mack, Eric Ebron, Quentin Nelson, and then Braden Smith too from the offensive line. So it's gonna be a great event nonetheless. But yeah, I can see why someone would want Andrew Luck there. I mean, he's probably the face of the franchise.
It's his supporting cast, literally. His receivers, his line, and his running back.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And he's got Darius on the other side of the ball, just trying to get the ball back to him. But
yeah.
it's going to be a great event. We think, we're expecting a nice little turnout. But it's a good question, nonetheless. I mean, Panini's pretty strict with our guys. And they also have Saquon Barkley, who's another huge name. And, I mean, they're really restricting him. He signs a lot of cards and stuff like that. But for the memorabilia aspect, he doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot more than Andrew Luck.
Now we had, I know we had some Saquon jerseys come through here a little bit ago.
I think, that happens when guys previous, when they're coming out of college, they don't necessarily have that exclusive deal yet. So you'll see some stuff out there that's, has your other certs, your packets, your JSAs. You won't see the Panini on some of that stuff because that was prior to where he inked that deal with Panini. There's other guys out there who have exclusives. There's companies out there like Steiner. They lock a lot of the New York market up. Right. Eli Manning, guys like that. Fanatics, obviously, number 1. Peyton Manning. Mitchell Trubisky, who we're very familiar with, they lock up a lot of those guys. So a lot of times you'll see, these athletes will still come to these shows and they'll still participate in these signings, but they'll be represented by companies that have their exclusive rights.
Sure. I mean, and even when they, when they do branch off and if their deals are up, those guys are so sought after. You got to act quick as soon as they announce, I'm not going to really be an exclusive anymore. Like those guys get tied up immediately. Right. So you could see a little bit of Andrew Luck in the near future, but just a guy that we're always searching for. He's tough, and we would love to have him at the show, regardless. But
yeah, Panini, if you're listening,
please
you know where to find us. We'll make something work.
Please let us have him for just like 10 minutes. But we had that was the first fan question. That was the first fan question ever that we've had actually.
First one, and
That's
we
awesome.
Anticipate many more, and we'd love to answer them. And I think we could talk all day on these shows about questions that these fans give us.
Right,
Mike from South Carolina, you made history.
Yeah. Congratulations, Mike. You did a fantastic job sending the question. But second thing that we kind of had, come across the desk was someone sent in a picture to our Facebook page. It was a Dan Marino on a hydro dip helmet, so a super futuristic sort of helmet. And I want to kind of know your guys' opinion. Why get such a throwback, old school kind of player on such a futuristic style kind of helmet? Why do you think that is such a popular move right now?
Adam, what do you have to say for after?
I can argue one side. I'm on one side, and that's I like to get when I PC my personal collection. I like to get what the player wore. I mean, if it's Marino, I'm cool with the old school VSR4. Mike Ditka, give me the 2-bar TK suspension helmet. I know a lot of really cool stuff is out there. I love the helmets. I mean, the customs are amazing. I would stick to keep those with the current modern day guys. I think, in my personal opinion, it just doesn't add up when it's an old school guy. Again, I get why they do it. They look amazing. But personally, for me, I'm a collector. I like to keep it traditional. I want to see what they actually wore. That's my opinion.
I'll take the other side of the argument. I think it's cool to have the best player with kind of like the best version of a helmet. You know, it's the new kind of hip trend where we're going. You know, everyone wants the hydro dips, the cool patterns on the speed flex. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of like a Barry Sanders Lions helmet, like speed flex helmet. I think, you know, why not, if you want the best player, put them on like the best version of a helmet. So I could definitely see why people want to do that. Plus, it's more appealing to the eye. Let's say someone, you know, you're hosting a event at your house or something, and someone comes over, sees your collection, they're like, oh, what's that helmet? Not like, oh, what's that old helmet? So I don't know. Just taking a different side of the argument. Go ahead. It's my 2 cents.
I like the idea of getting the best player the franchise has had on the best helmet that you could probably find. Mm-hmm. If you are a Dolphins collector, you probably have a Dan Marino on a VSR4 or something like that. Right. If you're a strict Dolphins collector and you see a Dan Marino Hydro come by, you're like, oh, I gotta have that for the collection because it's gonna look great in my personal collection. But I just wanted to know, it was an interesting kind of topic, but I can see it on the other side as well. I mean, if you're an old school collector, you would never even look to find a Dan Marino on something so futuristic like that. So I kind of like, you know, like a guy like Brett Favre. He's always known to wear that older, like Riddell, you know, big chin strap.
Leather chin strap.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Tom Brady, he was still wearing the VSR4 and he has to not wear that anymore because it's...
Yeah, starting this year, the VSR4s are banned from use on the field by the NFL.
So, well, we won't see many of those, if ever, going forward. I mean, we'll still trickle in here and there from the older stuff, but yeah, speed is the minimum.
It's almost odd that we see more or less VSR4s than anything. Being like Tom Brady, like a sign like that, like he'll sign X amount of VSR4s and then triple that for everything else. I think. I mean, in my opinion, what I see and stuff, and we see a lot more Speed Pro lines now than we ever have before. I mean, you'll see guys, you know, that played in the 60s and 70s. We see Jim Brown on a Speed Pro. I mean, it's crazy.
It's weird to see it in the modern day, like the brown and white stripe.
Yeah.
With the, you know,
is that his most common item now?
I've seen
a decent amount of Jim Brown Pro Line Browns helmets.
Right.
That's
I mean,
pretty common.
He was a guy that wore like the TK suspension with the one bar.
It's like Mike Ditka.
People are calling asking for the Speed Pro. I mean, that's what people want. I mean, the majority of the people, like I said, I'm totally the minority. I'm the weird one here. But people want that cool helmet. I think you guys are totally right. You know, you want the best player on the best helmet. My personal favorite, though, if I'm going to pick a Hydro, I'm in love with these Speed Flexes that are Hydro dipped, but then it's like the Hydro dip is a different pattern within that.
The Mohawk? The Mohawk
style
with the flexion point here, and then you got the stripe in different colors.
Those are so sick.
Is it called a Mohawk?
Yeah. Huh. It's actually called a Mohawk. You know, talking with different, you know, hydro dipping companies, you know, that's what they call it. They call it a Mohawk.
Interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
And is it called a flexion point?
I call it the flexion point because I mean I did intern at Riddell, so like the flex point. That's why they call it the speed flex because it flexes at.
So
like
Mohawk and flexion point are two things you made up.
I mean, the Mohawk actually is what they call the hydro dipping companies refer to that stripe on the top as the Mohawk, as opposed to like you know the base color on the sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. I never thought about that.
I'm not a huge fan. Again, we've talked about it in the last couple episodes. Black mats or flat blacks, I should say.
Flat blacks.
Are I love them. I mean, you get the right color pen on those. If not just white, you're looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't. Again, like even this one here is like 3 really old quarterbacks on Redskins, the most futuristic helmet probably right now that you can get, or one of the most futuristic helmets. And I mean, it's cool though. I like seeing the transition of just the pro line being that's
it keeps
awesome.
it interesting. I mean, something Riddell for the most part puts out something new every year at least. So it's always cool to see what they're coming out with. You know, in the past with Blaze and Ice, and now flat black, and I think they got some other things in the works. So we're always excited to see what the new trend is. Keeps it interesting.
Right, I agree. I mean, you got to see what's new, what's hip, and just try to outdo that, which is eventually going to run out of ideas.
It's tough. You're doing a good job so far.
But yeah, that's cool. You can only hydro dip so much, and then end up running yourself into the ground or whatever. But with ideas and we'll see where that stuff goes. It's always exciting to see what someone can come up with that's new and that's fresh.
Another great fan question.
Yeah, that was another good one. It was more of like a picture, like give me your opinion on this. That was cool. Yeah. That was cool. So we can sort of get into the bulk of what today's going to be about. NFL draft happened.
Which we're super excited about talking about. We're all draft guys here, so.
Yeah, we were big. I know Griffin watched every single second of it.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna
All
lie.
8 rounds there.
There's
Whoa.
seven.
I wish there were 8. Wish there were 8.
We
12
know
rounds.
how many rounds you watched, but I was the same thing. I think I watched pretty close to every pick. I mean, I wasn't glued to the TV for the whole thing, but I had it on at least in the background.
Well, yeah, we're located in Chicagoland, and obviously last Saturday the draft was going on, and it was snowing outside. So what better to do than sit on your couch and watch the draft the whole day? That's what I did.
And again, being Chicago Bears fans, you know, we didn't have any first or second round picks.
So we kind of
draft
had to
picks
watch
third,
later
so it was
on.
like that was like our draft. It was like Saturday. So.
Right. That was good. It was a good draft. I think overall, being that there wasn't too many skill position players, it was still very interesting.
Not a lot of standouts, but very deep.
Yeah, I agree. I echo that statement. You know, a lot of the front end talent in this year's draft was on the defensive side of the ball. But if you look in like the second and third rounds, there's a lot of depth at the receiver and the running back positions, even the tight ends.
I think a lot of guys that 5-10 years ago they were first rounders, but now since the dynamic has changed so much with the draft style, where you don't draft a running back or receiver in the first round unless they're Zeke or whatever.
Odell
Beckham, that's where you pick them up second, third round, and we definitely saw that this year. So
yeah, there weren't many generational, like right now, you wouldn't say generational talent coming out of college in the first round for many skill position players.
Right.
Very few this year.
And we could be in our words this time next year. There could be 4 rookie Pro Bowlers at receiver, 3 at running back, 2 at quarterback.
Which would still be interesting because those guys weren't drafted very high.
Right.
And they could always have that on their resume, like, oh, I was drafted in the 5th round, and I'm Pro Bowl receiver the next year.
And it was interesting because now, being in the industry, we're watching, or at least I'm watching this draft. Okay, who's going to go where, and how is this going to relate to like their memorabilia?
Right.
So it's like, oh, DK Metcalf to the Seahawks. It's
right.
Like, ooh, Doug Baldwin's on his way out. It's like, man, that's a guy who, if he's coming up doing signings here in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, now that he's got that rookie deal, it's like, man, that might be a good guy to invest in now. It's like nobody was investing in Tom Brady for 1 or 2 years into his career. So it's like, who's that guy?
Right.
You're just like, oh man, that's a sneaky good pick to where I'm going to jump on that bandwagon now instead of waiting down the line when his sick price is $120.
Sure.
Yeah, we're about to dive into a lot of those guys here.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, we have to be the front runner and know we have this guy.
I got a long list. I mean, this was, like I said, there was a lot of deep receiver running back drafts, so I'm interested to talk about this with you guys to see who you guys might think is your investment, your value pick now that they're on their NFL pro team.
Absolutely. I mean, I have 2. I have 2 guys that I think now that they're on a pro team will have more value than they did coming out of college.
All right, start us off.
I know you probably have like 55. I have 2.
Round 7, pick 13.
Yeah, there we go. The first guy that I kind of want to talk about, and a lot of guys didn't like the pick, but I think he immediately brought more value to himself when he got drafted, Daniel Jones, the quarterback from Duke, who got drafted by the Giants. I think immediately comes in and could be a rotational guy right away. I mean, if Eli's on his way out like everybody thinks, I think he'll beat out Loletta for that number 2 spot, and then he immediately has more value than he already does. And coming out of Duke, it's hard to kind of have a lot of value if you don't play basketball if you're not drafted in the first round.
Right.
So for Daniel Jones coming up, was he number 6? I believe.
Yeah, 6 overall.
So number 6 overall. Thanks, Griffin. I knew you knew that. Number 6 overall. A lot of Giants fans were upset, but I think he carries more value now than he did coming out of college. Even if he would have been drafted like 18 to the 2nd round, he would have had less value. But I think he fits in the spot, and I think he'll do a nice job of sort of retaining, if not gaining, value for himself.
Yeah, I have a couple things on Daniel Jones. I mean, for him being in the New York market, like we previously mentioned in this podcast, I don't think he's going to be a non-exclusive athlete for too long. I think Steiner's going to do their thing, which they should, and wrap him up, which great for him. He kind of gets the Mitchell Trubisky effect. I mean, like I said, we always talk about how we're in Chicago. We're very familiar with the outcry of non-support when Trubisky got drafted by the Bears because he played in that, call it a smaller market, NCAA team and the Tar Heels, UNC.
They also traded up for him.
Yeah,
the Giants didn't trade up for Daniel Jones,
exactly.
which could lessen the pain for a lot of Giants fans, but there was still like an overwhelming what the hell are we doing kind of feeling around that pick.
So
I mean, it's kind of hard not to.
It's no fault of Daniel Jones. And again, going back to Trubisky, it's like just because we didn't see him play in a New Year's Day bowl game, you just assume he's bad. But that doesn't mean the case at all. I mean, it's worked out for the most part for Trubisky, and I'm sure it will for Daniel Jones too. But people were so quick to give up on him. It's going to be tough for him in New York, but I think he's in the right spot, and I think his memorabilia price is going to be an expensive one for
Yeah.
a long time coming here.
So you agree with me?
I do agree with
Thank
that.
you.
That's a good value pick. That's a guy who got drafted in the right situation, and that's great for an
Sure.
autographs standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, on the field is what propels your autograph value higher than anything. I don't know when this guy's going to see the field. Is the question? Is Eli Manning done after this year? Is he done after next year? It really seems like Archie Manning is kind of like shadow running the New York Giants in a way. It's like, is this guy ever going to leave? They draft Daniel Jones 6th overall. I think,
They
in
have
my
to see
opinion, that's
something.
but 6th overall for that particular quarterback coming out. I think that's way too high. You have Dwayne Haskins sitting there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why his memorabilia aspect now is higher than it was. You know, because number 6, he's a top 10 pick. He's a lottery guy. So,
but is he going to live up to that 6th overall status? I personally don't think he is. I see the majority of the people grading him coming out of college see him as a average starter at best, kind of Eli Manning, like V2. I mean,
hey, I don't think a lot of people would be too upset with the Eli Manning version too.
People
And,
at
chase
best Eli Manning V2.
People chase Eli Manning autos pretty hard.
And I mean,
it's another guy you don't really
you don't play for 2 years in the sake for Daniel Jones, does your autograph value go down? Probably not. I mean,
It's just going to stay the same.
because
It's
they're
like
not
6th
bad.
overall pick,
Yeah.
hasn't touched the field yet for 2 years. Like, it's going to stay the same as if once he got drafted last Thursday. So
Right.
I agree, Griffin. Who's your first guy?
my first guy on this list is the tight end out of Iowa, T.J. Hawkinson. And the situation that he finds himself in, I don't really think he could have found himself in a much better situation. He's in Detroit, an established quarterback with Matthew Stafford. It's really interesting because they picked Eric Ebron number 10 overall in 2014, and that didn't pan out. I don't know if it was a team issue, they didn't use him right, Stafford didn't trust him, or what it was, but then he goes to Indianapolis, scores 12 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But I think this T.J. Hawkinson kid is a complete tight end. Ebron was a receiver, not so much a blocker, but T.J. Hawkinson can block, he can catch the ball, he's got great speed, he's got great size. He's an all-around tight end that you really need in today's NFL game. You can leave him on the field for all 3 downs. And with Golden Tate departing via trade last year to the Eagles, Matthew Stafford kind of lost his security blanket. I think T.J. Hawkinson can come in right away and become, I think Matthew Stafford's favorite target. Kenny Golladay, he got there too. Other than that, there's not much receiving help for Matt Stafford. So I think this is a great pick by Detroit. You get a immediate impact starter. I honestly think he could be a top 5 fantasy tight end.
Yeah,
right
and
away.
I think too, Gronk set the world on fire with tight ends, drawing a demand for signatures and memorabilia.
Right.
So Hawkinson, if he can kind of keep, not so much that I'm comparing him to Gronk, but if he can keep that up and become Detroit's #1 receiver, he's going to be up there with the class of receivers when it comes to signatures.
Obviously that's a big task to live up to in your career is becoming Gronk, but
Yeah.
coming out of college, this guy is as complete of a tight end
If he's going in the
prospect
top 10,
as we've seen.
You're
Can
good.
you guess the last tight end to be picked higher than 8?
Kellen was
What year? What year was it?
2006 was the last time a
2006.
tight end went higher than
Last time.
8th overall.
Give me a team, I'll get it right now.
49ers.
That is.
Vernon Davis.
Yep, Vernon Davis out of college, out of Maryland. He
Yeah.
was a complete prospect too.
I was gonna say that, but I wanted
And
to get
he
it.
had a pretty good NFL career, and I think T.J. Hawkinson is in a great situation with Detroit.
I know
really
a
do.
couple
I agree with that,
a couple
for sure.
episodes ago we talked about how much of a skill position the tight end is turning into.
Mhm.
They're
Because it's
basically
like
meshing. I
a
mean, tight end
big.
receiver is like, I just remember watching this draft and it's like, this guy's a tight end, but he's basically a slot receiver.
Right.
He's just going to step out one step and he's running vertically just like every other receiver.
Right.
So, the more we saw tight ends go off the board this year, the more they kind of compared them to receivers. So, at some point, it's all just going to be
Yeah.
one position and those guys will all be.
I agree. And Hawkinson, what makes him so special, I feel like, is because we talk about the tight ends being more involved as receivers, and their body style changing to becoming more fast. But Hawkinson can block. Like, this is a all-around, like, complete tight end that
Sure.
you can leave. Like I said, you can leave on the field for 3 downs, just like Gronk. And they're kind of a dime a dozen nowadays. And when you see all these tight ends, mainly thought of as receivers, but if you can have a tight end that's a blocker and a receiver, and you don't have to bring in your blocking tight end or your receiving tight end, it also can leave things up to chance on the defense. It's like, I don't know if this team's going to run or pass when this guy's on the field because he can do both.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, outside of Stafford, too, it's like they don't really have a huge face to that franchise other than Stafford, so Hawkinson might be able to slide right in and be that number 2 and really draw, you know, a solid fan base.
I can see, like you mentioned, top 5 fantasy tight end for Hawkinson. I can see him almost in the memorabilia world like one of the bigger chases. Like, in terms of a tight end that you would go for, it'd be like, oh, I'm disappointed I got a tight end, but I mean, if you pull Hawkinson, you did very well.
That's
I
a
think
big year for tight ends.
I think him, Kelsey, and you know, now like Gronk retired, but I mean, Kelsey's another huge one. Like,
well, that's a good point.
Is another
Gronk retired. You know, who's going to be that number 1 tight end? You know, Kittle's emerged.
yeah, he's solid.
You know, he's a chase guy, but now it's like that's the perfect time for Hawkinson. I know his Iowa teammate Noah Fant went to Denver as well.
Another great situation
So
with
it's like,
Flacco.
yeah.
Flacco loves his tight ends.
Sure.
Baltimore had like 3 of them that were pretty productive.
And that kind of leads me into my guy. He's not my number 1. My number 1 guy I'll save for when we come back around. But my number 2 guy is kind of a sleeper here. But early second round pick, Drew Lock.
Ooh.
You know, Joe Flacco is Joe Flacco, but again, you know, Denver hasn't had a quarterback since Peyton Manning, and even before Peyton Manning, they struggled to find their identity with Tebow and early days of Cutler. So I think Drew Lock could be the answer there. I think a lot of teams liked him, but I think a lot of teams passed him because they didn't necessarily need a quarterback. And then when it got to Denver, as much as they liked him, I just don't think they could have waited any longer to pass up on him. So I think he's going to be a solid number 2 for a year or 2. But down the line, you know, he's got a huge resume as far as playing 3-4 years in the SEC. Pretty much started every single game he played for Missouri. Great bloodline, you know, has some ties to Denver, whatnot. So I think he's going to really step in and be a great starting quarterback when Flacco goes down in a year and a half. So one guy that you might be able to catch at one of these shows for a cheap price, and you know, 5-10 years from now, you're gonna be like, well, I got this guy at this price. Like,
did really
lock
well.
him up now. So that's
Good pun.
Yeah.
Lock that guy
him
up.
up.
Lock that guy up.
Not even intended. That was awesome.
You didn't even mean it.
Lock now. Yeah.
Lock that guy up. No, I mean, I could see that too. I mean, it could be another situation like Flacco had in Baltimore. He could go out before the season ends and just let the rookie step in and take his spot. And then,
I mean, you also look at the revolving door of Denver quarterbacks the last 3-4 years. Not that it's the same coaching regime, but you know, same general manager, John Elway, obviously. But Osweiler, Simeon, Keenum, it's like,
right.
You know, the trend of Denver quarterbacks just coming and going is so fresh in our minds. There's really nothing keeping me from seeing this happen one more time, especially with the year Flacco had last year.
I for Drew Lock, I think it's a good situation, just learning behind Joe Flacco. Kind of a similar style of quarterback as Drew Lock. Tall guy. I think Drew Lock's 6'4", he's got a big arm.
Right.
The knock out of him coming out of college was his footwork wasn't very good, and his accuracy, his decision making. But I mean, that's stuff that you can learn. You know, obviously sitting behind a guy like Flacco will help. For me, I think Elway just keeps drafting the same kind of quarterback, tall, big arm. Like, when is one of these guys going to pan out?
Exactly. One's got to work at some point. Paxton Lynch didn't work.
Drew Lock, out of all of the guys that he has drafted, I feel like has had the most college success. Like you said, played in the SEC, toughest conference in college football.
NFL junior, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Osweiler was a pick. What did we play? Arizona State, Pac-12, not that great of a conference as the SEC. Paxton Lynch went to Memphis.
Conference USA at the time.
Yeah, I mean, so if there was one of them that you would think to pan out, if you pick out those 3, I'd say Drew Lock would be.
I think too, he was on the top of people's draft boards, you know, as he was a sophomore, junior, and he kind of fell a little bit. I think it was just a product of the teams that, you know, I think if he was maybe a class before, so many teams were in need of a quarterback that they got their pickings the year before. So I think it was a kind of a product of the time. But for him to go fall in that second round, I was a little bit surprised. But I think we saw a little bit last year with Mason Rudolph. He circled through the
third rounder.
Yeah, through the industry. I mean, he was doing a lot of stuff, and you know, it's like not to say that he's not going to pan out, but you probably got him at a great price last year. If you can do the same thing with Drew Lock, just kind of hold on to it. I think you'll find some good value in there. I mean, we hear stories all the time about, oh yeah, back in the day at this show, I got offered, you know, Brady was signing for $40-$50.
Yeah.
And I figured I'll get him later if he comes to be anything. And
Sure.
like, you know,
right out of Michigan. They're like, yeah, we
yeah,
don't
you
care
know,
about this
seventh
guy.
rounder, yeah, cool, he's the backup, but you know, nobody
Right.
thought anything of it. So I always like to look at those backup quarterbacks to see their situations, see who's going to play a little bit sooner than the other one.
Right.
And Drew Lock is at the top of my list as far as those backups.
That's kind of what I thought of when I thought of Daniel Jones too.
Yeah.
How long can Eli be in there? Will he beat out Loletto, which he should? I mean, if he's got all the hype of the number 6 pick. But it's just a really good way to go about it,
It's
especially in the
underrated
quarterback position too.
class.
Yeah.
I think no one's really talking about it now as much as we should be. By the end of the year, there's going to be 3 or 4 names who are going to be starting the majority of those
Right.
picks for that team.
Right. I could see Drew Lock starting by the end of the year.
For sure.
and you look back on this and say, "Wow, I'm a genius."
Yeah.
I called that right here.
Put it on record.
Griffin, you want to give us another one?
Yeah, my number 2 guy is someone that I think could come in and be the number 1 wide receiver on this team right away. Because there's not much around him that he's got to compete with, and that is Deebo Samuel from South Carolina. Got picked, let me check it here, 4th in the 2nd round, 36 overall. He comes into a situation where the top receiving target, George Kittle. Receiver, you got Marquise Goodwin, who is strictly a deep threat, catches like 2 balls a game, if that. Probably just once for 74 yards, a touchdown. Drives fantasy owners crazy. And then you also have Dante Pettis. So not a lot around him. And Deebo Samuel, a guy you picked in the 2nd round. Some other notable receivers you pick in the 2nd round: Jarvis Landry, Juice Smith-Schuster, Michael Thomas. Guys that coming out of the draft, you're like, oh, 2nd round receiver could be good, and then just explode onto the scene. I think Deebo Samuel with Jimmy G coming back, it's going to be a nice compliment to George Kittle, who is still, I think, after the year he had last year, the number 1 option. And then also they get Jerick McKinnon back too. So this 49ers team, it's going to be an exciting team to watch. I think this is a team that could go a lot of different ways. They could struggle because of how young they are. They can also excel because of all the different talent they have. So Deebo Samuel, certainly a guy to keep your eye on moving forward. I mean, if he becomes a starting wide receiver, the number 1 guy, his SIG value is going to be right up there with the rest of the young wide receiver class too.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're super young. And then Matt Breida, who started a couple games.
Yeah, they're going to be deep. It's going to be a deep offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're super young, fat. I mean, they just want to get out and run. But I do think Kittle still is the number 1 target, no matter who they would have brought in this draft, or even, if they made a big trade. I still think in the system, Kittle's a superstar. I think, like we mentioned tight ends before, Kittle's another one to just break out and just be a super athlete. But I do like that pick in Samuel. He could be another, number 2 wide receiver when he starts, just to work his way in the offense, and then start, catching more balls, move into that number 1 spot.
Yeah, my number 1, going back to my number 1, Locke was my 2. My number 1, not even necessarily for the situation he's in, which I think is a phenomenal situation, but just for the state of the franchise, is Josh Jacobs, going to Oakland out of Alabama. End of the 1st round there, was the 2nd pick by the Raiders.
24th overall.
24th overall.
Good job, Griffin.
I just like where he's at because I don't think that the Raiders really have a face of the franchise right now. I think the face right now is John Gruden, and if your coach is the face, it's.
Hey, come on, man!
You don't think it's Carr?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. I don't know if Carr is a long-term answer. And again, going back to a couple episodes ago where there's smoke, there's fire. When I was talking about with Kyler Murray, there's so much chatter about Kyler Murray going number 1. He went number 1. There's so much chatter about Derek Carr not being the answer. So many people thought maybe this year they'd take a quarterback. That I don't think that Gruden is invested into Derek Carr. As good as he is, I mean, nothing against Derek Carr, he might not just fit that system. So with the Raiders not knowing who the quarterback is, maybe getting someone next year in the draft with such another deep quarterback class, Josh Jacobs is kind of that one offensive guy that takes over the face of that franchise, especially with them now moving to Las Vegas next year. So with this whole transition of, who's going where, they're going to Vegas, Josh Jacobs is going to be that poster child for that move, and I think he's going to be the guy who's going to get a lot of press, and a guy that you would, if you're looking for an autograph for a Raider, I think he's one that you're going to lock up sooner.
Yeah, he's got absolutely zero competition for that starting running back job. Like Jalen Richard, no, he's a 3rd down pass catcher. Josh Jacobs, they drafted 24th overall. He is going to be the starter.
Number 1 running back.
No question about it. Obviously, he's got the pedigree coming out of Alabama. You can rattle off a number of successful Alabama running backs. I like Josh Jacobs a lot. I think he's going to jump in right away. Could possibly be a top 15, maybe top 10 running back in fantasy this year. Fresh legs. I mean, everyone loves a rookie running back, right? Like who's that rookie running back? 2-3 guys that you can draft in your league and just come in and produce right away.
Right.
He's gonna be a hot ticket. Both in the memorabilia industry and the fantasy industry.
That flex position
right
there,
no
Josh
Khalil
Jacobs.
Mack anymore, no Amari Cooper, so you're going to be seeing a lot of Josh Jacobs in your break room.
And the Derek Carr situation is very interesting because people forget at you that he was an MVP caliber quarterback.
Yeah, he was a Pro
pre-collarbone injury.
Yeah.
I just don't know what happened to the guy. Is it confidence? Is it the system that he's in now with John Gruden? Because he clearly showed the potential. They were 13-3. Yeah. And they were like I think they were the 3 seed, and then played Houston in the 1st round that year, and then lost because Connor Cook was their starter.
Yeah.
So Derek Carr is very fascinating to me because he showed MVP caliber potential, and since that injury, similar to RG3, he had that the injury, and
Right.
you can see it could just completely derail guys. So,
Right.
we'll see.
I like
See if Jacob
that.
steps up and be's the face of the franchise.
I like that Jacobs thing because I just don't think that Gruden has enough confidence in Carr to let him run the offense.
Right.
You know, he'll still sit
He
back
wants
and
his
play
guy. I mean,
calls.
that's his team. He
Right.
stepped out of the TV booth for a reason. He's going to want to start
Right.
with his team. Again, nothing against Derek Carr, and I'm sure they feel that same way. But
What about AB? I mean, I just completely
Yeah,
forgot
yeah,
Antonio
he's
Brown
not
could
good,
be.
right.
I mean, phase of the franchise, but with the way he's been acting on social media
Right.
recently, do you really want him to be like?
your
I mean, he kind of
poster child.
fits kind of with the Raiders brand, a little edgy, kind of egotistical, like we're the Raiders.
Yeah, he's a
like,
perfect
as,
Raider.
like,
He really is.
yeah, that
Right.
it's a very interesting.
I get to see that Raiders team just being such a run-first offense,
Right.
being that Gruden doesn't have the confidence in Carr, like I mentioned, but I did forget that.
I know. I just kind of
Brown
like, wait.
yeah, yeah,
With the
yeah.
receivers, they got AB, they got Tyrell Williams, who they signed from the Chargers in free agency. So it's going to be a totally new look Raiders offense.
It'll be interesting too, though, with AB. I mean, he's going to be their number one, but again, who's their number two? So double, triple coverage with AB.
Mhm.
They might be more so
Right.
run heavy
They
team
might have to,
start.
or maybe catch passes out of the
Yeah, a little more
backfield.
depth. Yeah,
something
yeah.
like
So
that.
that's
It's a
my
good
pick.
one.
I'm excited to see him,
Yeah.
especially when they move it
That's nice, Adam. I have one that's kind of similar to yours. It is a running back, but it may be a little biased because we are Bears guys. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
But David Montgomery from
Yeah.
Iowa State. I mean, he's going to move
Mhm.
in and he'll
Love it.
probably get a lot of reps as a
But
rookie.
late third round pick too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even one of your top 70 picks.
They did
Right.
trade up to get him though.
Mhm.
They traded up, I believe, 14 spots to get him in the third round.
And not even to cut you off here, but right after was Singletary went to the Bills. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's like that's the bubble of where you're going
Mhm.
to see a lot of these running backs, especially the Bills situation where you don't know who's going to be in that backfield. Montgomery, Singletary, and then second rounder, the kid from the Eagles, Miles Sanders. That bubble of mid-round running backs is going to be really interesting. to see.
Right. I just think Montgomery's maybe going into the best situation other than Jacobs in terms of running back. I mean, Cohen has proved to us that he can't be an every down back. He just doesn't have it physically. He's a little smaller. Quick. Don't get me wrong.
He's
He's
just a
quick.
little
He can
guy.
run.
He's a little guy.
He'd probably still beat in a fight though, Griffin. if
Well,
he-
I think I would have a tougher time beating up Tariq Cohen than Kevin Durant though. I firmly believe that.
that's fair.
firmly
I don't
believe
think
that.
it's fair.
Interesting.
That's a hot take. But I think Montgomery moves in. Everybody wants him to be sort of a three-headed monster
Yeah.
in Chicago. They just signed Mike Jones too in the
Mike
offseason.
Davis.
Mike Davis.
Mike
Jones. Yeah, Mike Davis. Sorry. But that could be a little three-headed monster there in
Yeah.
Chicago, and I think his value in terms of autographs. His Bears, another really good market in
Yeah.
Chicago. David Montgomery, the first drafted rookie, and moves right into a little bit, maybe not a starting role right off the line of scrimmage for play one.
Mike Davis might get it week one.
Mike
Just 'cause
Jones.
he's a veteran. Yeah, Mike Jones. But, I mean, I think we saw so many dual sign stuff with. I'm curious to see with Howard and Cohen. And
You could put all three now.
You could put all three. I mean, Mike Davis is definitely gonna. He was very efficient in the time he did get in Seattle before he got injuries and other things derailed his time there. But yeah, three-headed monster. I think it's going to be awesome to see how Matt Nagy moves those guys.
Yeah.
And David Montgomery is compared to Kareem Hunt, and we know what Kareem Hunt was when he was with the Chiefs. Very in demand as far as memorabilia goes. So yeah, David Montgomery's a great pick. I think you can sign all day, dual sign with Cohen.
Sure.
That's sick stuff. I mean, we've seen it before with Howard, so another really solid pick.
I am not high on Mike Davis whatsoever. Mike Davis is the guy that is the third running back. He comes in when all the Seahawks running backs are injured. You pick him up on fantasy. He plays 3 games. He does okay. Mike Davis isn't your starting running back. David Montgomery, you trade up to draft in the third round. He is your starting running back. I watched him a lot in college. My dad is an Iowa State alum,
Okay.
and he can freaking run the ball.
I don't think I ever
He-
saw. I saw his highlight. I don't think he ever got
No.
tackled one time.
He bounces off tackles. He has great shiftiness when he's running through holes. He's super tough to tackle, really low to the ground. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I have a bad feeling that Nagy's going to do this, like you said, the 3 kind of rotation, because he comes from that Andy Reid tree. The Eagles use like 4 running backs every year. I'm like, come on, pick one. And then Kansas City, too, is a little bit like that after losing Kareem Hunt. But I think David Montgomery, if I was Matt Nagy, I'd start the guy right away,
Yeah.
then throw Tariq Cohen in situations on third down, line Tariq Cohen out in the back, outside of the backfield in the slot. You can put both of those guys on the field.
Yeah.
In a lot of situations. So I think David Montgomery could be the starting running back right away. He's the complete running back that Chicago has been missing since. Anybody?
Matt Forte.
Anybody? Yep, Matt Forte. There we go.
Dang.
Matt Forte was
Cedric
so
Benson?
good. He might not have the pass catching adequacy that Matt Forte had, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield.
And
And we know Jordan Howard couldn't do that at all.
That's why
So,
Cohen's there for a reason. You know, they have Cordero Patterson too, who's going to line up basically anywhere behind the offensive line. So it'll be interesting. But like I'm looking for my dual sign, Montgomery.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Going stuff. Yeah, I think we've all given 2.
Yeah.
You want to do one more?
I got some deep cuts.
You wanna
All right, give me one more.
One I really like, you know, underrated small school guy, Andy Isabella. Went to second round, came over in the DLC, you don't even know. But he's a second round pick. Shows how much you watched. This pick came over from Miami when they traded for Josh Rosen, so end of the second round.
Okay.
Kid out of UMass, little speedy, you know, Wes Welker looking, you know, Edelman type receiver. I think he was one of the faster guys at the combine. And really good hands, really good pass catch ability. He's going to pair early with Kyler Murray, and I think that's going to be one of his targets opposite of, you know, the legend Larry Fitzgerald for this point. A little bit of an underrated pick because he's a small school guy, but I think, you know, despite not getting a ton back for Josh Rosen, they did pick up that second round pick, and I think they're ecstatic to have Isabel out of UMass.
they drafted 3 receivers,
They're
including
loaded
Andy
up.
Isabella. They drafted Hakeem Butler, another Iowa State guy who's big, tall receiver. He can run after the catch. He's got good hands. It was like I think the first pick in the 4th round. Then they also got Keyshawn Johnson, not to be mistaken with the Keyshawn
Is it
Johnson.
no relation, right?
No. Well, he's spelled like
It's spelled totally
Kee like S.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But I think, you know, that air raid offense that Cliff Kingsbury is bringing in,
huge point.
they're going to just absolutely air the ball out. David Johnson, look for him to be a huge PPR
They're
running
running the
back this year.
modern verticals.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
4 verticals,
Scramble to the
running
left,
back, just
throw it deep.
go out in the
Yeah.
flat.
David Johnson's still there. I also like Stidham too. I mean, I know he's a backup to Tom Brady, but Jimmy Garoppolo's a backup to Tom
Who
Brady.
better? I mean, who
Matt Castle,
better?
after he was like a
to learn
legend,
about?
he was a backup. I mean, a backup to Tom Brady ends up having a nice career. And who knows how long Tom Brady will be there. I think if Belichick took a flyer on this guy, he believes in him. So again, just like Brady was to Bledsoe back in the day. Stidham's another guy I'm looking for on Patriot stuff.
And Adam, another guy you were super big on, you know, going into the draft, and now just talked about him all day today. Will Greer for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, you never know with Cam Newton what his health is. I mean, obviously Cam Newton will always be the starter
Right.
no matter what. But you know, if you're not
But-
healthy, you can't play.
Yeah, we're just kind of talking about guys that will come in and be behind an ideal quarterback that they can
It was
support.
a big year. Again, we didn't see a lot of stars as far as after Kyler Murray. You know, Haskins you could argue, you know, Daniel Jones you can argue, but not a lot of star power coming out. I think it was a deep year for quarterbacks. It was kind of the year for me for backup quarterbacks where Ryan Finley from NC State, he went to Cincinnati, another guy that is going to have a nice value here because it doesn't sound like Andy Dalton's.
They're fed up with Dalton.
Doesn't sound like he's the answer.
They really
Zach
are.
Taylor, the coach, coming over as the QB coach from LA. He's very offensive oriented, a little more of a up-tempo spread game that they kind of ran with Goff. Dalton, I don't really know if it's that style. You know, Dalton's more of that slower pro style that we're used to seeing back in the day a little bit. But yeah, I don't think these guys are getting drafted 4th, 5th round if they don't believe in them. So I think those are guys that will have low value now, but might be something you want to sit on for a little bit.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted to handle there with that topic. I think we did a fantastic job of us.
Yeah.
You did start a fight for the 2nd week in a row. You did say you would fight Kevin Durant, and now you want to fight Cohen.
I didn't say I would. You're the one that brought it up. You're like, oh, I don't think you can beat him up. I'm like, I think I would have an easier time beating up Kevin Durant than Tariq Cohen. Doesn't mean that either one would be easy. Just saying easier.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
But a great draft. I mean, a lot of guys to look for, a lot of offensive guys. You know, we didn't even talk about Metcalf or Brown or
Right.
AJ Brown from Ole Miss kids. I mean, it's going to be a huge year for memorabilia as far as this draft class because it was deep. But we'll have to see who pans out and holds up their value.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of like, whoa, where'd that guy come from?
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, he was a 1st round pick. Where was he drafted? 5th round? Like, what?
5th round, pick 21.
Yeah. Let's see who that is actually.
That's awesome. I mean, we're going to move on to everyone's favorite game. We're going to play a little 20 questions here in the booth.
I only need 10.
And you only need 10. All right, so
Let's do this.
it's my turn. I have my guy. A little
We've
bit
completed a full rotation.
I mean, I brought a couple notes on him as well, just in case I forget what division he's in. So, who's going to start? So, let me explain really quick. If you're a first-time watcher, Adam and Griffin,
Or
or
listener,
in this case, will ask me simple yes or no questions. I have to answer them in yes or no fashion until they can figure out who the person in my head is. And last week, Adam had Jimmer Fredette.
Stump the Schwab.
Stumped the Schwab for the first time in freshman history. Griffin had Paul Konerko, and I had Bruce Smith the first week. So I'm going to bring it back. You guys want to start it up?
Yeah, I think we've been
Sport?
doing,
We gotta go
doing a lot of
sport.
sport. Again, we've done pretty much all sports that we're familiar with here. I'm gonna say, is he baseball?
No.
Okay.
Is he basketball?
No.
Oh, so he's football.
That's 2.
Football. He is football.
Yes. That's 3.
I mean, can't forget about hockey either. I mean,
True.
hockey,
I was gonna do a hockey
What
guy,
are
but
the core 4?
I didn't want to screw up on his name or something. There's a lot of tough
Hockey
names.
is something on. Hockey is something on. Admittedly, I'm not up on my hockey as much as I should be, but
Right.
okay. So football guy. I got football.
Did he play in the NFC?
No.
Okay, so he's an AFC player. Is he a current player?
No.
Wow, so an old guy in the AFC
That's-
football.
That's
Was
5.
it 5? You got 5.
It's,
You keep track? Okay.
yeah, it's 5.
Okay. So AFC, old,
Former.
former. He play offense.
Yes.
Okay.
Old AFC offense.
You are spot on already.
Is he a quarterback?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't make it that easy. It's not difficult when you.
So that's 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Did he play in the decade between 1990 and 2000?
Between the decade of 1990 and 2000, yes, he did.
He's 92. Alright, so not too far back. Was he a receiver?
Yes.
Okay, receiver, AFC, 90s to 2000.
Getting a little bit closer.
How many questions is that?
That's probably 10.
Alright.
That's 10.
10 questions. 10 questions down. You guys got some pretty decent information so far.
I think of players like 1990.
You could try to narrow down
2000,
teams.
Receivers.
We go by division, so we can get the team.
That's going to give it away.
Well, I hope so. 90s, 2000 receiver on this team, when you can narrow it
Sure.
down pretty good.
Did
go
he
ahead.
play in the AFC North?
I'm sorry?
AFC North.
AFC North. No, he did not.
Oh, he's
South?
nodding his head as he says no.
AFC West.
AFC West.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so he's either in the south or the east.
Because I don't
That's 13
Alright, he's either in the south or the east.
or 12.
Alright, so narrow it down. Yeah,
Okay,
east or south.
so we got, but the Texans weren't even in the AFC.
I was thinking that with the Jaguars too.
They were, but the Jaguars were like
Right,
right.
95,
Key
95
baby.
I think was
Key
it.
baby, you're
Alright,
on to
let's
something.
see what they got.
Jaguars? Texans?
No,
Colts.
you're on to
Ooh.
So is it
Ooh.
east or south?
Ooh.
So narrow it down here.
Ooh. I might kind of guess the player because he was like.
I don't even.
You were
I don't
onto
know.
something with the Texans.
Did you just give that away?
No.
Okay.
But the Texans weren't a team until 2001.
Okay, so he's probably messing with you. So narrow down division here so you can figure out maybe what team.
Okay, so we have 13. We've used 13 questions.
Yes.
All right. Did he play in the AFC South?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're down
Did
to
he play for the...
what? Titans, Colts, Jags, Oilers. Were the Oilers still in? No.
I mean, I'm leaning Colts here because they have a deeper history of Colts. Receivers,
Yeah,
I
like
don't think of any Jaguars
Keenan
or
McCardell.
Texans. Yeah, I mean, that's
It's a really good.
that's a deep cut if he goes Jaguars.
The initials.
If he goes Jaguars and Texans 90s receivers, you're disqualified because
Why?
that's too deep.
But that would be a very good one, don't you think?
Yeah. I'd be
I'm
very-
like, wait. So
Okay, does he play for the Colts?
He doesn't play for the Colts.
Did he play for the Colts?
That counts as 2.
Did he play for the Colts?
Yes.
Wow, you're really gonna do that to me.
15.
oh wow.
5 questions to get it right.
So
Okay,
my
you
guess
could.
is-
You could get it right in the next
Speaking
5.
out loud, my guess is Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison.
I was thinking Marvin Harrison earlier, but he didn't play for any other team besides the Colts.
Yeah, but that's okay. We didn't say
But he
that.
said like, did he play for the Colts?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're like,
Yeah, I said he played for the Colts. Yeah, he did play for the Colts. He did, but he doesn't play anymore.
He
so
doesn't
he's
play for them
past
right now.
tense.
Whoa,
He's
oh
past
yeah,
tense.
yeah.
Those would be. I mean, Marvin Harrison was more 99 to 2000 than Reggie Wayne was.
Yeah. Reggie Wayne was like
Where did
2010.
Marvin Harrison go to college? Was he wasn't Miami. That was Reggie Wayne.
I want to say
it
some
wasn't-
like obscure Louisiana.
I was gonna say I don't think it's anything huge. Otherwise, I can't think of it. What was he? 88.
Yeah, he was
Was that
88. No,
Dallas
he was
Clark?
88. Dallas Clark was 44.
Oh shit. Did he wear number 88?
In college, no.
Not in college, no. And this is not 2 questions. This is an NFL question. Did he wear 88?
Oh, so that was 2 questions. So now we're at 17.
No. 88 in the pros.
88 in the pros for the Colts
Yeah.
from the 1990s to the 2000s? Yes.
Okay.
Is it Marvin Harrison? Thank
Yeah,
God.
I- as soon as
yeah.
As soon as you started like screwing us on questions there, I knew that we were
You were definitely onto something you mentioned.
Where do you go to college?
Syracuse.
Ooh, that's
He
right.
caught passes from Donovan McNabb
Yes,
his
I
senior year.
Yes, he did.
And,
McNabb draft class, third, goes to Tim Couch, Achilles Smith draft class. Nobody wanted to pick Donovan
Achilles
McNabb, and
Damn.
focus on that.
That was close.
So, Donovan McNabb be the Daniel Jones. Nobody wanted Donovan McNabb.
True.
And so,
True.
don't sleep on Daniel Jones.
That's
Just because he
the.
went to an ACC school that's not great at Division I football.
Got the Manning connection, coached by David
fair.
Cutcliffe.
It worked out for Donovan McNabb for the most part.
Yeah. So you guys did get it. You guys did get it. We're 3-4 now. Adam with the only stump.
Marvin Harrison's a guy that I wish I saw a little bit more in the
Yeah.
industry. I don't think you see him too often, but
Right.
That's
He's
a
definitely
hard man to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Definitely
from
a-
what I've
Yeah.
tried to do and
For our
I've heard
culture.
around the industry.
Yeah,
Oh
for our
yeah.
culture, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, no, that was a great pick. Great
Thank
to
you.
see.
Yeah,
That was
international man of mystery.
I feel like it wasn't too difficult, but as soon as you got Colts in the 90s, it's
Yeah.
over. And there's only one receiver that really comes to your head. I
Marvin
guess
Harrison.
it's going to make it a little bit more difficult.
Well, it's kind of sucks you picked a division that didn't have franchises really that much in the
Yeah,
90s.
yeah.
To be the Texans and the Jaguars, but good pick. Good pick.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps it up for episode 4. Here we are, Fresh Ink. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the questions and the pictures and the send-ins. We appreciate it. Keep it coming. We hope to see you guys next time.